Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us for today's webinar, 10 ABX fails that kill revenue and what to do instead. Before we dive in, I just wanted to cover a few quick housekeeping notes. Today's session is being recorded, and a link to the on-demand version will be shared with all registrants after the event. We encourage you to submit your questions at any time using the chat feature. We'll address questions at the end of the session, time permitting. If we do not get to your question, we will reach out to you after the event. You can also access additional resources and helpful links through the event portal at any time during today's session. And now I'm excited to introduce Jane Serra, CMO at memoryBlue. Jane brings over 17 years of experience leading marketing for B2B SaaS and services companies, from early stage startups to over $100 million scale-ups. At memoryBlue, she oversees brand, demand gen, product marketing, and ABX across global markets, always with a sharp focus on revenue and alignment. She's also the creator and host of the Women in B2B Marketing podcast and community, where she's helping amplify women's voices in the industry. Welcome, Jane. It's great to have you with us.
Thank you, Stacy. And I have the pleasure of introducing one of my favorite people in the industry and probably the world, Trinity Nguyen, the CMO of UserGems, who, if you do not know her, you are missing out, and you have to follow her on LinkedIn as well as UserGems, because I can't express, but you'll see throughout this call today, I keep saying call, but throughout this presentation today, you will see firsthand how UserGems is just like a golden star of examples for what to do with ABX and ABM. So you'll see, follow both of them. It's just, if you have any questions on ABX, this is where you'll get your answers. And hopefully you'll get some today too in the whole presentation. So thank you everyone for watching and joining today. And welcome, Trinity.
Well, thank you, Jane. That is so kind. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. And yeah, I cannot wait to tell all your other besties that I'm the #1 favorite.
Yeah, that's between us. They'll never see this. But seriously though, the number of times in a day, literally a day sometimes, but in a week, that I get screenshots of UserGems ads from my team at this company, at past companies, saying, look at this, they like, it's targeting me because you're talking to them. It's just amazing work that you guys do. So after this, I'm sure everyone that's watching, if you go to the UserGems site, you will see the same thing. But let's get started. So we wanted to do sort of a play on how to lose a guy in 10 days. So top 10 ways to basically kill your ABX. So how to kill your ABX in 10 ways, if you will. But the reason we brought this up is because ABX, we'll get into why we call it ABX and not ABM, although, still interchangeable at the moment, many say. But a lot of people think that, oh, this isn't working. This doesn't work for me, but it's probably because you're doing 1 to 10 of these things. So we'll get into this today and the details. The first fail, or first way to fail at ABX, is calling it marketing. So if you say ABM, I'm a very big proponent, and Trin, you can chime in here, of course, of words matter. The words you say, we have to be very careful when we speak to anybody, but especially as marketers when we're communicating to our audience. And our audience is external, but also internal marketing. ABX brings it to another level. So in the past, when I've called it ABM, account-based marketing, it becomes very siloed. Like, oh, that's on marketing. Marketing's going to do this, and they're going to give us leads, right? And that's how it works. And that's just not how true account-based marketing, or ABX, works. So when you switch out the X, and Trin and I think have different versions of what the X is. So for me, I say account-based experience because to me it takes the focus and puts it back on the customer experience and the journey, or prospect experience. So it's a focus on them, and then all of us in the background collaborating to make sure their experience is the best experience possible and draw them to us. But Trinity, what are your thoughts here?
No, actually, I think we're pretty much on the same page. Like it's about the experience of the customers. But I thought coming from I'm a a geek, kind of like a nerd. So I thought the X was kind of like the small X. You know, like when you study science classes back in the day, it represents multiple
Yeah.
things. So it's account based, different function in go to market, sales, marketing, CS. So in my brain, the X meant like that, but I think I think you're right though, Jane. I think it's an experience of the buyer that they go through and the customer as well. But yeah,
Yeah. It's so funny though, because since you planted that seed in my head, I am leaning more towards your definition because it kind of, right, it changes out and you want the X to represent every division that you're working with, right? It's not just
yeah,
marketing. But
yeah,
bottom line here is just don't call it ABM
yeah.
and account-based marketing because then other people will deprioritize it that you want
Mm,
involved in the process.
yeah. And I think it's just really hard too because it's a well understood category, at least from the naming standpoint. So it's really tricky to swap it out. When I joined UserGems six and a half years ago, we started doing the ABX, and I intentionally call it ABX, but nobody really knew what I was saying unless like they are in like the ABMers or marketing leaders like us. Um, so it was already like in you got to educate the market, but also educate internally to what this is. And then the part that's really hard is when you're trying to get optimized for SEO or LLM now. Everyone search for ABM because that's the name of the category. So it's really hard. Like I have this conversation with my head of demand, I think like once every 6 months. And I think we just like agree to disagree and everyone just go off and doing their own thing. But it's not, yeah, ABX is just still not popular yet. And I could see why too.
Yeah.
Like the vendors are pushing for it because they want marketing to be the buyers. And therefore they call this ABM so that we can identify to the solution
Yeah.
and the pain point. And then they're building things just for ads. And that makes this whole thing becomes just marketing. It's really tricky. Anyway.
Yeah. It's got to be kind of meta when you're also selling to an audience and talking a lot about ABM, ABX yourself. When I used to work at Just Uno, which is a pop-up company, we had the same kind of debate with the word pop-ups because we didn't want to call ourselves a pop-up software. So we started renaming it like, oh, conversion optimization platform.
Mhm.
And we had all of these different things, customer experience platform.
Yeah.
But people are still searching pop-up software, pop-up
Right.
tools. So we
Right.
had to SEO all of those as well. We couldn't get rid of it altogether.
Yeah. It's
But
hard
I
to
feel
go
like,
against the grains or like it's tricky. But like I'm pretty adamant about it internally just because I agree with everything you said, Jay. Like words matter a lot. And these little things that sounds like, oh, Trin just being like a tickler for like the little things here and there, who cares? Well, over time, people will start caring. And like I think for account-based go-to-market, and we're gonna hit on the other points later on, a lot of it is just like the fact that you care about these little things that will help prevent a lot of pain points later on, specifically the attribution. So I think being specific, what you call this, can help with bringing alignment with other teams because it's not just a marketing program, it's all of us.
exactly.
Yeah.
One last piece before we go to number two, because you mentioned that it's difficult to train people to move from ABM to ABX, which I understand, especially externally. But
Yeah.
internally, I found that it was to my advantage because I was introducing a new acronym to everybody in the company. At least at my company, it was that I'm thinking of, it was pretty new to the rest of the team, the rest of the company. So we had a whole powwow all about what ABX is and why I'm calling it ABX and not ABM, which was another opportunity to kind of sear it into their brain. Like, this is including you, sales folks. This is including you, SDR team, and even like a little product and CS for us, which we'll get into later. But
Yeah.
you can kind of use it to your advantage as a training and teaching moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, let's go to number two. Obsessing over attribution. Do you want to kick this one off?
Oh man.
We all love to talk attribution, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So I think it's really funny because we talk to a lot of marketing leaders just because of our product, and we talk a lot about like, oh, how do you build up ABX program, et cetera, et cetera. And we share what works for us, what we learn, just because like 40% of our pipeline the last 5-6 years come from like this ABX program. So we have a lot of these kind of conversation of what works, what doesn't. And it's really interesting how very quickly the conversation turned to like, well, how do you attribute? Like, how do you know which channel works? How do you like measure the channel? They don't use the word, how do you attribute, but more like, how do you know which channel works? I'm like, hang on, step back and understand why you want to know which channel works so that we can optimize our spend and allocation. But before we get to the optimizing, our number one goal is how do I get this program to convert and work first? And then we figure out the credit piece. So I always go back to like why account-based works is we measure by the accounts. Yes, we sell to the humans inside the accounts and all that stuff. But ultimately, if I'm going to sign with NVIDIA, there's just going to be one contract with NVIDIA, right? Doesn't matter how many people I talk to. So my goal is how do I just measure if we target 10 companies, how many of them will convert into hand raisers opportunities and then close one? Focus on that piece first. Doesn't matter which channel they come from. Let's just focus on that first. And if you already can do that consistently over time, then you can start like double click into like, how do I improve the channels and whatnot? But it's such a slippery slope because I understand like budget is based on like what you can improve in terms of which channel works and whatnot, but not this. Even on my team, we've been running this for so long. So the team is now getting to the maturity stage where they want to see which channel works. Like, do the SDRs thoroughly working all the accounts? I'm like, I'm seeing some SDRs not doing a good job with like their badge, but they still come in through the ads or they come into the website. So like I start seeing these like innocent questions coming up, even though, as you can tell, I've been preaching like account based for like so long. But it's human nature, right? That's why I find like, well, it feels like all of my ads are doing the work, and some SDRs don't do it, or vice versa. Like, how do we know what ad works? My reps are the ones that are calling people. So I always have to like, hang on, like don't get into that piece yet. We can do A/B testing and measure it. And we've done so many A/B testing. We turn off ads sometime. And then sometimes we, like the SDR just don't work those accounts and we just run ads only over and over again. And this is so common sense. If you surround sound your target buyers in all channels, the chances of them converting will be higher. And we measure it, and it was about 30% higher when you do it. And it just makes sense. And you got to work together. So like marketing, we love attribution, but we actually control the fewest number of channels. We have ads, we probably have events, website maybe, but I don't think that's really a channel, right? Because they have to come in through somewhere. And then the SDRs, they have what? Emails, calls, social selling. And if we run, like if us marketers run events, we need them to be there selling at the event. So like we should dial back a little on the whole attribution thing, marketers. Yeah. Because we need like 50% of the channels that the SDR control. Anyway.
Yeah, we could have a whole nother webinar just on getting rid of the word credit and how we shouldn't pit marketing versus sales, because we need to collaborate together. And if marketing is working right, it lifts all boats and all channels and all quote unquote sources. So yes, I'm with you.
Well, I understand why they want to measure it though, but that it's so easy to go down that like.
It is, because I can answer one thing right now. Like, what did I say when I was introducing you? That just the work and the system and the programs that you all have done at UserGems, including your ads, like the very specific targeted ads that speak to me when I see them. I talk about them all the time. People send me screenshots. So you must get that too all the time. That's how you know they work. Like, and how do you measure that? It's our conversations that we're having, like WhatsApp with friends, screenshots and email. It's not something you can measure on a dashboard sometimes. Maybe I'm not clicking through on the ad. I don't want to charge you, but I'm seeing it and I'm messaging you. So yes,
There's no way you could measure that. Like on the app, I
no.
mean, like we in marketing, we know like people that's smart enough, they don't click on ads, they open up another browser and then they search then direct to your page because everyone knows it's memoryblue.com, usergems.com. So you can't track any of that, right? And on the flip end, on the SDRs, because when I first joined, I was like the one person that did everything. So I was the SDR too. And back then we could track open rate. So I could see when that person opened my email because I got that alert. And then instead of replying to my email, they went to our website, naturally researching it, and then request a demo on the website. Like if you keep seeing this over and over, like why are we so obsessed about attribution? Let's make sure the program works, and then attribution is just for optimizing it.
Yes. And what you mentioned with A/B testing, so this was first brought to my attention when I was speaking to Karina Owens when she was using UserGems as well. But she used very similarly like a control group. So she'd carve out a section of her target audience and she did not put them in the ABM program. And then those that were in the ABM or ABX in the program, they were kind of against each other and it always outperformed. And that was how she was able to show proof and attribute the program versus like, here's a dashboard. It's look, this is working because they closed at X% higher rate and X% more revenue. And the ones who weren't touched by ABM are still not even open ups.
Yeah.
So I love that. Okay, let's go to number 3. And this one will be fun to talk about with you, Trin, but buying an ABM platform before testing it. And I want to put a caveat here. We don't mean testing the platform. Yes, like if possible, that's always fun. But buying an ABM platform before testing ABM itself, like testing the waters. Because a lot of people historically, a lot of marketers would think, okay, we're going to launch ABM. We're going to buy this $100,000 platform just to get display ads out here, which we'll get to later too. But that's not how you launch ABM. And I'm curious your thoughts before I go on my rant.
100% agree. I don't think ABM is not a vendor or a solution. ABM is not a tag. Like ABM, ABX, it's a go-to-market strategy. Basically, it's just a program, kind of like similar to like enterprise go-to-market. So like every strategy, you need to figure out the strategy part of it, what needs to happen, how to process, like build a process around it, get people buy in to execute it, test that out first, and then ABM platform is just a tool to scale it. So like, and we didn't have anything when we started. We started doing ABX when we were bootstrapped, like probably had 2 or 3 customers. The only tools I had was PowerPoint for the ads. Gosh, those ads were horrendous. I'm not a designer. And then a Google Sheet to track list of accounts, and then an outreach, like a sales law outreach platform to just send out the sequences. And that was it.
Exactly. I think there's simple ways to get started and just test the model for your organization to see if it fits. It could be as simple as, okay, we're starting with marketing. If you have budget for ads, we're testing this small ad budget, be it LinkedIn, Facebook, wherever your audience is. And then sales is following up on the same audience with the same message in this outreach campaign. And then we're going to invite everyone to a webinar. Like that simple cadence to start that is low cost. You could also remove the ads and have something more tailored. But there's ways to test it out first. And then as your revenue builds out or you feel like it's strong enough, you've proven the testing of the waters, then you can invest in more platforms and go from there just to scale it out.
I think the reality is a lot of revenue leaders, like marketing leaders, have this like crazy target. So we always have to look for like, can it give me like, what is a silver bullet I can buy? Like what program I can invest in that can give me the scale impact so that I can hit that number. I understand that pressure because like a lot of Botox situation going on.
Every year.
So I get it, but for ABX, it's really just be patient with it. You really don't need a lot of, even for paid ads. I think we spend $200 for 30 companies we target. We just monitor it because
Right.
when it's small, you can monitor everything that's happening across the board, any channels, any account, and then see if it works before you start investing in platform. Because otherwise, if you spend immediately 100K hoping for the scale out of the gates without strategy and buy-in, without any process, then it's a vicious cycle of justifying why you bought 100K, and then basically you ended up being the attribution because you need to justify that. So it's just a vicious cycle.
Yeah, exactly. It's also, it's putting yourself in a really bad spot if you're buying $100,000 platform and you're expecting it to just solve ABM for you.
Yeah.
I'm gonna switch to number 4 because I don't want to make sure we get through all 10 before the time is up. So number 4, and just a reminder for everyone to pop questions in the chat, just in case we have time. Otherwise, we'll get back to you offline. But number 4, thinking that ABM equals display ads. Perfect follow-up from number 3. You just kick it off, Trin.
Account-based go-to-market, people. It's not just advertising. It's not just marketing. And ads is just one piece. Display ads is so attractive because they give us scale. The programmatic is so easy. You can just sit back, a few clicks, a couple hours, and then you surround and swarm your TAM. And then you can measure from like ad impression and assuming that, oh, they're progressing through the funnel. But it's so misleading though. That is not account-based. That's just programmatic display ads.
Exactly. It could very well, depending on your industry, be something worth testing, and it could be a portion of your ABX program, but it should not be the only one. This very much ties to the, like, you can't solve ABX and think ABX is a platform. Same way as it's not one channel. The whole thing is it's the full customer experience throughout the process, where they're seeing you, how they're seeing you, how they're starting to build a relationship with you. It's much more, maybe that'll be the next acronym evolution for it, but building in account-based like relationships or something like that.
ABR.
Yeah, the next one. All right, let's go to number 5. This one I may have a lot to say on too. Ignoring the SDRs, BDRs, ADRs, whatever you call them at memoryBlue, they're ISRs. So ignoring the SDRs in your ABX motion.
Yeah. Oh man, I think I already talked a lot earlier about like how SDRs are they control probably at least 50% of the channels that are available to us. So the fact that a lot of marketers don't really care so much and still don't care so much about like how the SDRs day is like, how they work through their tasks or like accounts is such a huge miss, because then we kind of going back to this marketing doing something and toss it over the fence. So it's either like leads. In this case, it's just here's a list of accounts we want to hit. I already ran ads targeting them. Pass it over. You go and do it. So like, I still see a lot of marketers don't really know what SDRs do. They say, they just like picking up calls, or they just email. No, this actually pretty structured, pretty militant actually. So I think from marketers, well, in general, all marketers, but also like the ones that running ABX program, I think you need to get intimately familiar with the flow of how SDRs execute their tasks. Because if that's the case, that's if you know how they do it, then you have empathy for one thing, but you can build the programs in a way that remove any pain points, manual tasks that the SDRs have to do, so that they're more likely to work through all the accounts that have high intent or that you want to target with the ABX program. I hope that makes sense.
It does. I think, and one thing that's worked for me here, it does depend on what your ABM model is, what tools you do have at your disposal. But the most important thing is making sure your SDRs or BDRs are leveraging the same content and messaging and positioning as you. So what I found successful is before we launch an ABX campaign, getting the whole team on a call together. So whoever from marketing is running this, and then whoever from the sales team is touched by this particular campaign, and you have a launch call. So going over all of the assets, like these are the ads that are running, this is our target audience and why, these are their pain points that we're pressing on, and these are our key differentiators. We get all of that together in one location and launch. Ideally, we're getting the sequence, at least the first draft of the sequence for sales already out there for the SDRs. And then I always prefer they personalize it and tweak however it makes sense. And then you can always tier out, right? If there's a tier that is one-to-one outreach and not part of a sequence, you break that out. But the most important thing is aligning on, okay, this is the target audience, this is the goal of the campaign, this is what's happening, these are the assets, and answer any questions. So you're all on the same page there.
And I would add from like a different angle too, is I feel like sales reps or SDRs, the good ones, have really good intuition on how to break into accounts that marketers can learn from. It's really hard because like for us in marketing, we look at accounts. It's kind of arbitrary. Yeah, we use contact level targeting and things like that, but it's still kind of like a bulk for us. Versus for SDRs, they have to choose out of 1,000 people that I could reach out today. Who am I going to reach out right now to maximize my chance of hitting the quota? So the good ones have really sharp instinct. And to be honest, like our ABX program years ago, how it converted so well came from a learning of an outreach that worked, because they test with thousands of different emails and outreach and talk track. And there's one that works really, really well. And we brought that approach upstream into how we run, like showcase the ads. So basically we just visualize what the rep was doing in the email onto the ads, and that helped with converting. Because otherwise, like, like marketing, we tend to be pretty general in our graphics, but reps are really good at that kind of like details that could make our ads a lot more effective. So don't ignore the SDRs. Sit next to them.
I don't even think we have that as a number here, but it should be like 5B of, it's not, alignment doesn't mean marketing looping in sales or looping in SDRs. It's two-way, right?
It's a two-way thing.
Directions. But it's so true. Before I even launch an ABX campaign, I first pull the info from sales and then create the campaign and come back to them like, this is the package. So it's definitely two-way. Great point.
Yeah.
All right, number 6, letting the reps pick accounts based on their gut. I'm sure we've all had this, ABX or not, what accounts the sales team is focused on. But then, I mean, there's always the degree of, okay, these are existing relationships. This is their Rolodex. Although, I mean, I don't know why we still use that term Rolodex, but it's still relevant. But yeah, it can't just be arbitrary. Like, I'm taking this, I'm taking that. You need to seriously think through, where is the biggest opportunity to focus right now. Go through that, think about the campaign and where it makes the most sense for the whole team to focus. And then, which you'll talk to, I'm sure, is looking at signals, various signals that are coming about, and prioritize by that. But Trin, you go for it.
I think it's kind of funny that we put 5 and 6 next to each other. So 5 is like, listen to your reps, and 6 is like, but in moderation with reasons. Because I think this is a part where I think marketers are really strong. So we think as like holistically, more strategically in terms of like the big cohort, right? So versus reps, they focus so much on one-to-one. So if they see a nice billboard on a 101, the company just raised a massive round, it's like, that's it, I want that account, with no reasons or rhymes, just because, right? The instinct. But it might work for one rep if that one rep has a really strong instinct. But if you do the same thing across the sales team, there's going to be a lot of bad instinct. And I think this is where marketing, with all of our tools and how we approach the process and workflows, frameworks, could be helpful. Like, look holistically, how do I know out of my TAM, like which one's the one the most like best fit compared to our customers? At least they have like a fit criteria. And then after that is like, reason why we want to target them now versus like a year from now. And that's the signals that Jen just talked about. So combination of that, you can then tell to your sales teams like, hey, thanks for the list. I actually think that some of these might not be a right fit, but here are the other ones that might be a good ones for you because they fit well and they have all these signals or indicators that they might.
Mm-hmm. It's another teaching opportunity. I feel like that's how I'm trying to reframe things whenever something happens or an idea comes up that just doesn't fully make sense. Pause and then react and make it a teaching moment. Like, okay, this I appreciate it, right? Like listen to it, but we need to do this. So let's test this out and kind of reframe it for them too.
Yeah.
All right, let's go. Number 7, relying only on intent data. These actually do really follow each other well, I'm realizing.
Mm-hmm.
But we were just talking about signals. And this is a layup, but relying only on intent data is another fail for ABX campaigns. Trinity, you dive in first.
Yeah, I think for this one, so intent is kind of almost like the same as ABX, ABM now, just because
Yeah.
they go hand in hand. And the name is so catchy, like intent. It's just like so good. Who wouldn't want buyers without intent? Like with intent. But basically, like intent, by definition, like the intent signal is just someone out there is researching topics that related to you. And it's not 100% accurate because you can't really verify unless you call up like, hey, Jane, I think I just saw you researching how to automate outbound. Is that you?
Is that true? Yeah.
It's really hard. And a lot of intent data is mostly at the company level. So let's say memoryBlue, somebody at memoryBlue in the city is doing that. So it's just one signal. There are hundreds of different kinds of data points that can help you figure out whether the company and the buyers are in market for solution like yours, and intent is just one of them. What we've seen right now with we can't have a webinar in 2026 and not talking about AI, but with the whole AI thing, the interesting part is that data becomes so much more accessible that you can find any kind of interesting data. Like today, I think I was talking to someone who's looking for companies that just had cybersecurity incidents in the last 12 months, because that to them is an intent, air quote.
Ooh.
And they combine with all this stuff, like do they know anyone in there? Is there any new executive just hired, blah, blah, blah. But there's so much data out there. And then with AI, it's kind of like can help you with digesting all this data. So back to this point, don't just rely on one signal or one data point. If you can talk to your sales team, see the good ones, to see what kind of like data points that they use to break into account, see if you can find sources for those data, bring into one place, and then have a system to kind of like prioritize account based on that and then action. So I think that's 2026.
Also, last thing, because we have to go through the rest really quick, but for number 7, so intent data and signals in general, I'm sure you have more than you realize. Like look at my first lesson or tip, I guess, is to go into your tech stack across the company, not just what you think is the MarTech stack. So do a whole assessment of what the whole company is using. Guaranteed within there's new little gems of like signals that you can use that you didn't even know existed. And things are signals like who was on your website, who was on your pricing page. All of those are signals, and different tools that you probably already have show a couple more. And then of course, UserGems has hundreds beyond that. So
I would say like that is such a good point, Jane. Like that's brilliant, actually. That is so true. Like for example, like website visit is one thing, but people who are attending this webinar, like if you run webinars or events, people who met with your team, attending any of your event, virtual or live, is a data point to indicate that they have interest. So yeah, you have a lot of data that you can use.
Yes. Always more than we think.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Number 8, ignoring real signals and workflows. This actually kind of, it expands on 7. So same thing, like there's all these signals that you're probably sitting on that you don't even realize. Like because ABM, ABX are newer, not newer, but past 5-ish years, 5-10 years acronyms, we've been doing versions of this throughout anytime you've been in B2B marketing, right? Even before the internet existed. And there were signals before there were platforms. So there's all of these things that we don't realize. So again, start with the tech stack. But Trin, what do you think on the workflow side?
I'll hit on the workflows. I think signals without actions are just noise. It's nice to have like alerts and like, all these things happening. But if your team doesn't act on them quickly, then what's the point?
That's a t-shirt. Do you already have a t-shirt with that? Because that's so great.
Not yet, but all right, maybe I'll do that for
After
this year.
Yeah, ping us if you want one in the audience. I love that. That's so true. Because you have signals, you need to act on it, or else you're just busying yourself. It's busy work.
Yeah.
Number 9, building static account lists and never revisiting them. I hate static lists in general. The only static lists that should exist are event lists. Everything else should be continuously dynamic, in my opinion.
100% agree. And things change all the time. Tech stack even tech stack changes too every year or so, right? People change their job, get promoted, they move around. And if you talk about like the example earlier, companies that have cyber security incidents, that is a dynamic living thing. So why are we still operating like we still in like the 1990s where we just digitized yellow pages?
Yeah. So true. And even just data sometimes is wrong and it gets enriched or fixed. So that in that case, it should always be dynamic, right? So that you're continuously updating it. If somebody moves their job, goes to a new place, or their email was incorrect, their phone number. So all of that gets corrected over time. People move so much nowadays too. So if you want to invite them to an event, you just got to keep those dynamic and keep revisiting. Last one, forgetting there are humans behind ABX, because we're talking about signals and workflows. And yes, in the age of AI, we want to make sure that we're not doing busy work and annoying admin work and updates and automating everything that we can. But at the end of the day, who we're reaching out to is humans. So building relationships is first and foremost. There has to be that component at the end. But I know you have some specifics, Trinity.
No, I agree with everything you said. I think on my answer is more on the tactical side of things. 100% agree. It's the people that buy. The people buy from people that they like, and that still stands true. And they like you because you're relevant, you have personality, and they like your brand, et cetera, et cetera. But if we want to get really tactical, and like, what does it mean for the ABX? So the way that we approach ABX that is human is, we talk about like signals and workflow, right? Basically how all of our signals, we prioritize technical lingo is like the contact level signals. What that means is like buyer level data points. So a lot of people are looking at things like funding and like hiring at the company. That's helpful, but I'm most interested in like what's going on with Jane. Jane just got a job, or like someone in Jane's team just got promoted, or Jane knows someone Casey, who's a customer of ours. That to me is like the human and the tech kind of like blend together. And we've been seeing that that's how the ABX convert the best. So this is the kind of tech and data points or signals that convert the best because it's about the person. So that's how we do it. And the same thing with like the example that Jane said initially, like if someone is in open opportunities with us, then we will run ads to the rest of the buying groups at Jane's company. It's like, hey, Stacy in marketing, someone in your company is talking to UserGems. Do you want to join a conversation? We don't really care that Stacy clicks on the ad. We just want Stacy to have conversation with Jane. Like, hey, Jane, are you talking to this company? So it's a very human thing that we're just replicating using tech.
So true. And just another example of the human piece, if you have budget for something like this, and this can also be pretty manual and low cost, it can be something you don't scale. But when I did start my current position at memoryBlue just a month ago, Trinity sent me a cute UserGems congratulations gift in the mail. So cute and perfectly timed, and it makes you feel warm and fuzzy, and that's the human side that you appreciate. So
that one I cheated because I'm basically your neighbor, so
you hand delivered it to me. And we have one more bonus for you all. The biggest ABX mistake teams make. We're going to be super cheeky, not using memoryBlue and UserGems. Haha. Definitely talked us. We're joking, but hopefully you got a ton of value out of today.
We're not really joking either, though.
That's true. True. It's funny because it's true. But yeah, definitely make sure if you got value from this, reach out to us both. Reach out to us on LinkedIn, connect with us. Definitely follow Trinity. There's so much you can learn from her. And there's also, I know there's a ton of content you can download in Bright Talk. We'll put both UserGems and memoryBlue information there. So feel free to click and go down some rabbit holes and tell us what you like and don't like. And of course, if you pull out your phones, you can go straight to our websites here to talk to us. And there's always LinkedIn. So Trinity, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm so sorry we don't have time for questions. We ran out at the very end, but if you have questions, just DM us on LinkedIn. We're there anytime.
Thank you. Yeah, sorry guys, we should have saved time, but whenever Jen and I talk, we just talk until the end of time.
Day. Yeah. So really send us questions. Thank you, everyone. Have a great rest of your day.